See a blonde-haired boy, he be playing.
Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Brad, here with Doug.
And his daddy.
Hey.
This is the rare game that I feel like actually makes me feel like we've been doing this podcast thing way too long, because you played this at PAX like 4 years ago. It was like one of our,
2017. I was we haven't talked about it all. I was going to mention that, but yeah, I played this in 2017.
that was my thought. I was like, I feel like that was like within our first year of doing this podcast thing. You did a preview of this game, which feels crazy because like,
yeah,
that's a long time to be doing this. So yeah, so there you go. 4 years ago, almost 5 now. Doug played this at PAX, which is the Artful Escape, and then I think it had some big, long, complicated title.
Like it was called the Artful Escape of Francis Vendetti.
Yeah, I guess that's not that
and
long
had
complicated.
Totally different art style. Not totally different, but a very different art style than the final game does. So it's pretty cool, like seeing what 4 years of development looks like for a game.
Anyway, so to jump into the current state of it, Doug played through this whole thing. I played through about half. It's on Game Pass. But yeah, so where did you end up with this compared to 4 years? Obviously a lot changed, but I know this is one of those games that you like hyped up in my mind. Like every time like a trailer popped up, like, oh, I played that game at PAX. It was so cool. Like, oh, that game had like such a cool idea. Like, and it was just always like forefront whenever there'd be like an indie thing pop up somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game, just to me, it's just immediately striking, and I just like the idea of it. Was just such a fun idea. It's like you're a guy playing a guitar through the time-space continuum as you go through alien planets and that sort of thing. So I was like, since I played as a PAX, and actually it's mechanically essentially the exact same game, I was just very excited for it. And when I hear the complaints, people like, oh, the jumping's pretty simple. It's like, yeah, I don't care. It's like, yeah, but there's not a lot of gameplay. It's like, I don't care. It's like the music is amazing and the sights are amazing. And I end up, and the thing that was interesting was like when I first played the game, there's no story associated with it. There was like a very loose thing. I don't think they showed it in game. I think somebody actually like told me the story or something. It was like there was nothing about this game beforehand. And it turned out that the story ended up like really striking a chord with me as well. I really enjoyed the story. It's just like, to me, it was funny because I've been waiting this game for 4 years. I was worried. I was like, there's no way this game's gonna live up to what I wanted from it, and it totally did. I absolutely adore this game. I love this game and can totally understand why people who play this game would be like, I'm not a big fan.
Which is where I kind of fall in. I tried so hard to like this game. It was one of those things where like I played for half an hour. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then as it went on and on, I was just like, I know this has to be short. Do I finish it? I know it's going to be short. How long to beat says like 3.5 hours. Funny. I can make it. I was like, I don't want to make it though. So I guess before I want to have this be more focused on you, because I know this is like your huge game, and I had weird little nitty complaints about it.
Which I can totally see. Yep.
Which I think you actually nailed a couple of them already. But the basic premise of this I liked, which is like you just show up and you're like clearly trying to live in your uncle's folk singer footsteps, and like
who's like Bob Dylan. It's just Bob Dylan. Like you're Bob Dylan's nephew. You're not Bob Dylan's nephew, but you're Bob Dylan's nephew.
But you might as well be. And like out of nowhere, you just play this like really good like guitar riff, and it's like, maybe you shouldn't be a folk singer.
Yeah. It's about Bob Dylan's nerdy little nephew who doesn't like doing folk music, who's not a bad folk music. Like he plays a little bit of folk music in the game. The folk music in this game is actually pretty good, which I thought was kind of interesting because like, oh, he actually could be a good folk singer because the folk music they have is pretty good. But he's just more interested in space and monsters and robots and that sort of, and like shredding his guitar on the light beams of the universe. It's this very sort of psychedelic, Ziggy Stardust, very very Ziggy Stardust sort of attitude of which is like just the opposite of folk, and it's this character who is trying to crawl out from under the shadow of his folk singers, his folk singer uncle, and basically from there it's him just building a new identity. It is him basically building the identity of a Ziggy Stardust like character, where he is no longer Francis Vendetti. They even ask you like what your name is, and you change your name. Like his name, the character's name is no longer Francis Vendetti, and then where he's from is no longer the town he's from, and what he does. It's kind of him building a lie, but it's more just building this character that he wants to be. Like it's all him. It has nothing to do with his uncle. It's just all 100% him. And I think that before the game gets weird, I think people are like, oh, this game's like really crazy and strange. It's like visually it is, The plot, though, it's that heart of this character trying to get out from his uncle's shadow.
Yeah.
By creating this new character, that it's very straightforward, and I just really loved that sort of aspect. It's just something to easy grab onto. When like the visuals are crazy, some of the stuff that's going on is like what's happening to the character is like kind of crazy, but it always has that very strong sort of center of like, this is what the story's about. So everything kind of feeds back into that story. So I really like this game because it never felt like the visuals got away from that, or the jokes got away from that idea. They all sort of build back to this one sort of frame that and if you're not, and I think we talked a little about beforehand, is like, if you're not into that frame of the main story, if you just don't find that interesting, then you're just not going to find this game interesting.
Yeah, because it's much more of a trip through like his mental state, more so than like a plot adventure of like, oh yeah, let's go do this. Because I think that's kind of where it lost me. Is it's just like all of this stuff is like just loosely connected and random and just feels, but again, because it's building on a character, not building on a heavy story structure. And I think as I was going through it, I was really looking for that like through plot line, like where are we going? How's this happening? What's all this stuff going on? And it's one of those things like, no, dude, like that's just like in my brain and like how I'm working through things. Like that was kind of the take I got again, only halfway through it.
I mean, so the things are actually happening to him. I guess that's an important thing to
well, no, I know
like,
that, but
yeah. But I get what you mean. It's this internal struggle, kind of like through the thing. And so it's funny because like that's like a very basic story. The thing we haven't really talked about is the crazy visuals, because what is happening plot wise, in order, like that's the main thread. What's actually happening plot wise is that he gets abducted by aliens to travel to a different dimension to become basically like the greatest rock star in the known universe and the unknown universe. And how they do concerts in this weird alien world is that instead of playing on a stage, the stage is a planet, and then they record you running through the planet playing your guitar, and that's the concert, is them videotaping that. So, and then they have these like really crazy visuals, really crazy music, very very psychedelic. But and the basic gameplay is just super simple. It's just platforming from left to right with kind of floaty controls, and you press X to play your guitar. And the playing your guitar doesn't really do anything. It's all visuals. You don't need to play your guitar while you're playing the game. And even the boss battles are like Simon Says games.
Simon Says. Not even like normal rhythm game. It is legitimately Simon Says. It's not even like here's your track, here's your notes. It's just red, yellow, blue. Red, yellow, blue.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing where like I can't fight against like the gameplay, but to me, because all of this was serving the story and the visuals I was just enjoying the visuals so much, and I thought the jokes were really funny.
Yes, that's true.
It's actually like it's a very funny game that's like that's also very heartfelt and also has this cool art style, but it also has very simplistic gameplay. And if you're not onto the art style, if you're not into the story, then you're just not gonna go. But I would say like by the end of the story and how it resolves itself, because I think one of the other main plot lines is while you're on this massive space adventure, there's a character who's already the greatest known musician on the planet, and you're his opener. And the game sort of follows that, like, well, maybe the guy that you're the opener for is kind of past his prime. And so it's it's kind of like your character who's on the upswing, meeting this character who's kind of on his downswing into retirement. And I really enjoyed that story. And then I think the ending was just like really great because it has these super epic moments that are really fun. It's kind of like Tenacious D. It was kind of like the thing I think I could like get closest to, like it's a very cleaner version. Like I don't think there's even like this. I think this thing, I couldn't imagine this game being even rated teen. Like there's like very mild like jokes about drugs. But it's that kind of idea of like Tenacious D. So they build these characters of like rock gods. And you're kind of like the psychedelic rock god.
Yes,
yeah.
That persona essentially that you're creating, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
But it's one of those weird games where sometimes I have those games where it's like I can see how amazing this game is. I'm just not feeling it for whatever reason. I don't know if it's not, you know what I mean? One of those like it's just not the right day. It's just not the right time. I'm coming off something similar, whatever it might be. But it's just one of those things where it's just like I wish I liked this more, but I just couldn't. I just wasn't into it, and I would even almost have a hard time pointing to why. It's just, this is great. The art is amazing. The music is amazing. The story I wasn't too keen on, but I'm just not feeling it. It's just weird.
I was playing this after Deathloop, so I just played like a super shooter game. So I think this is definitely like a sort of like those, I guess, I don't know what we call them, but we definitely talk about how we play games. Like after I play a super intense action game, I like to kind of cool down with the walking simulator sort of thing. Yeah. So if you've played like, because I think the other game you might have been playing was Forgotten City.
I believe I played this right after Forgotten City.
So I think it's a good game to come down from an action game. But I think that's like with a lot of different types of games. Like I really, how I play games, like I definitely make sure that I'm sort of mixing it up based on the last game I play. Like the next game I play is heavily influenced by the last game I played. So if you came from a slower sort of story-based game into another slower story-based game that has options that don't matter, that just make your character sound
I was going to ask you that if those actually ever came back to mean anything.
No, I think that's really fun though, because like there's a lot of dialogue.
That was not a criticism. There are pros and cons of those meaning things.
No, but I think it's interesting to talk about real quick is that you get a ton of dialogue options where they're asking about your persona character, and you're kind of like lying, but your character believes it, and like you make your character believe that they are like the god sent from the seventh planet of Gorzon to go and ride on the infinite court orchestra, sort of thing. But again, like I think if you like those sort of walking simulator games, you'll definitely enjoy it. But I would say it's definitely more gameplay light than most of those games. Like even for like a walking simulator, like it's very, very light on like intensive gameplay. It's mostly just jumping and playing guitar, and Simon says.
And very linear. I feel like a lot of other walking simulators, you'll have options, paths, things like that, where this is just very much left to right.
Yeah. But I think if this strikes you like the mood, and honestly, it's so visually arresting. It is like one of the. It is. Oh, yeah. I was when the Game Awards came out and Psychonauts was art. It was voted for art, and then Artful Escape was. I was like, Psychonauts got this in the bag. Like Psychonauts clearly the winner. Nobody's gonna. And then I played Artful Escape. I'm like, I'm sorry, Psychonauts, but Artful Escape is the most beautiful game I've ever played. It's actually funny as I was playing it. My partner's like, "Is this an Annapurna game?" It's like, it is an Annapurna game.
Hey,
just something about the vibe.
Action.
It's got the indie Annapurna game vibe. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. We are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.